Guide me among those whom thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what thou hast judged. Surely thou judgest, and none can judge against thee, and he whom thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art thou, O Lord, and exalted be thee above what they set up besides thee. I bear witness, nothing deserved to be served besides thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Greetings, supporters. Our new sponsor, Sister Sajdah Muhammad, through her jewelry company, is giving you a free sterling silver chain when you purchase your commemorative Elijah coin pendant. The link is in the bio. Peace and blessings, family. I wanted to personally invite you to join me on September 3rd, 2022 at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House from 3 to 7 p.m. We're going to be doing a fundraiser for the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House and enjoying these last few weeks of our warm weather. And guess what? It's my birthday. So come on out, scan here to RSVP.
You belong to yourself. You're an independent people, created from the nation of free people. Yes, sir. You don't need to go nowhere but to yourself. Yes, sir. There will be a great separation. So I said, it is on now.
The college is meant to prepare you for your future. That the time dictates that if we don't do something for ourselves as a people, we will be destroyed. And the aim of the enemy right now is to take us out.
We have God with us. We have Him as our guide. Yes, sir. We don't have to stand around here and ask the question, what must be done? Yes, sir. Get up and let's go and do something. Yes, sir. We cannot sit down. We cannot lay down. Yes, sir. We must get up. Yes, sir. And go to work.
Do you know what real joy is in life? Visioning something and bringing it into reality. That's real joy. Do you know what the next step in joy is? Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity.
Tonight, you need to fasten your seatbelts. We're going to hear from some of the greatest minds in the world. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of trusting our future and the future of our children into the hands of those who don't love us. I believe we need to revitalize black leadership.
I just love that video. Shout out to my brother Juan Carlos X with Slate Stone Music who put that together for me. Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings to you all. We say, as Muslims, we say Assalamu alaikum, which simply means peace be unto you. And it's the greatest gift or the greatest prayer that you could wish on someone is to wish them peace. And so when we say Assalamu alaikum, we are wishing you peace. So how's everybody doing out there? Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for coming. We're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about the impact of a data-driven culture and how the economic blueprint that was put together for us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pairs so nicely with this data-driven economy. It actually pairs better with this data-driven economy than it did with the gold standard and the oil standard. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about our sister, the goddess, Serena Williams, a little bit. We're going to talk about our beloved sister, Dr. Minister Ava Muhammad. But first thing I want to talk to you about is this water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi. And let me just play this clip, and I'm going to come back and talk to you guys about it. I'm going to play a few clips, so bear with me while I'm queuing this stuff up. But let's get this so you all can check it out. All right. This is interesting.
We never cut off water. The lack of water was due to pressure, a lack of pressure in the system, which we stated was complicated by the floodwaters that we received. It is because of our transparency that the state is aware of the many challenges that our system is facing. It is because of our transparency that we know about the staffing shortages. It is because of our transparency that they know about the system issues. And it is because of our transparency they know about the numerous equipment failures that we have. This is a set of accumulated problems based on deferred maintenance that has not taken place over decades. So let's talk about what we do next. Let's look forward to the united front that we have now announced and we look forward to. We're grateful to add the state to our team for the betterment of our city, Jackson, and our water system. With the state advising us and assisting us, we look forward to the myriad of improvements that are sure to come. I want to thank all of the volunteers. I want to thank all of the city employees that have been tuned into this challenge daily. I want to thank the support of Hinds County and their leadership that have been instrumental in supporting the city of Jackson over the years, distributing water year after year and crisis after crisis. And so I think it is imperative that we all keep our eye on the ball. We were here 2 Februaries ago where we had system-wide failures and the world was watching us. And the world is watching us again. And so we must continue to elevate our voices and say that the residents of Jackson are worthy. They are worthy of a dependable system. And we look forward to a coalition of the willing that will join us in the fight to improve this system that has been failing for decades.
Okay. This is an infrastructure problem. As a business consultant, I've worked on a number of different sewer and water pipeline projects. This is an infrastructure problem, equipment failures, maintenance problem. And the coalition of the willing coming together and trying to create a solution based upon a system that, in my opinion, is broken. So this is what I think should be tried. We have to try new ideas. Apparently, the city, financially and for whatever reason, has an issue with maintaining the infrastructure or repairing it or building it so that it can handle the capacity or the load that is on it. So this is what I think. Especially when you have these cities, and I'm specifically speaking from a Black female perspective. And so when most of these cities are majority Black or African American populations, this is what I think needs to happen. In our communities, well, let me say it this way. In broader communities, okay, among other cultures, you have business people who come together and use their resources. These are in the development stages. As a culture is developing, you have business people who come together to preserve the culture, to support, build, and expand infrastructure, and to invest their resources in the long-term sustainability of the culture. Okay. And then, of course, we know we live in a world where then later on they then get all this government assistance. But in the beginning, you have the business people, the entrepreneurs that start any type of movement, if you will, in this fashion. So what I'm saying, in our Black cities, if there's a Black mayor, if we got Black legislatures, then why not put together a program? Maybe you issue bonds. Maybe there's a some type of investment or loan program where we can go to our actors, actresses, our sports and entertainment people, or other business people who have certain amounts of disposable income, and teaching them how to invest in the preservation of the culture or to support infrastructure. Because if we're just going to sit here without the resources and just continue to try to make a system work and push a square peg in the round hole, then we're going to continue to be without. And so that's my take on that. I really think that we need to start looking at ways in which we change how we're financing these things. So if we're going out and the city needs to say, okay, we got a loan program and we're going to put a long-term program together. Not only is it to attract businesses in the area, but to increase the tax base so we can pay back these entrepreneurs and these athletes and these artists who have invested in the infrastructure so that our people have water. You can't tell me that there aren't armies, literally, of people with the money who would invest to make sure that places like Flint and Jackson and other places have healthy drinking water. So where's the program to put that in place? I'm not talking about putting together a program where everybody come and bring in these bottles of water, and I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about where we put in a program where we get hotels and move people. I'm talking about where we put a program together where these people actually invest in the infrastructure. It can be an equity play. It can be a loan play. That's what we need a think tank on how to put together. And listen, call me. I'm willing to help. So here's the next thing. I'm gonna get off of that, but I just really wanted to say that because every time I see this stuff happening, I said, we're over here relying on a system that just does not work anymore, period. It just don't work. All right, so yeah, 180,000 people without water. Where's the change? I hear the coalition of the willing, but where's the governmental change to get the funding to support the infrastructure if the tax base can't afford it? Okay, here's the next thing. This is a little lighter. We're going to have this conversation about our sister, Serena Williams, who is absolutely amazing. She is a god. And I just want y'all to put some good energy behind her. I want to celebrate her. I want to talk about what our sister is doing and make sure that we're all watching tonight so that we can push her on into this victory, because she's truly a god in her craft. Was never that good. Listen, let's support our sister, okay? And I want us as bloggers, as podcasters, let's stop participating in the media destruction of our people who attain certain levels of success. Let's stop participating in that. That way, they're allowed to grow through life and grow with their success. That's a big responsibility. You got a lot of people watching you and a lot of people looking at you. I know just on my level, and then you're constantly being talked about. People always got something to say about you. But let's err on the side of settling on the best part, because that's not an error, but err on the side of taking the high road. Even if maybe you don't really quite like the things that she does or how she does it, or, anything like that. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about, let me pull it up here. Here's the other thing. Make sure you all are registered for the 24 karat donate and sip that is happening on Saturday at 3 p.m. I want to play a short tribute to Sister Minister Ava Muhammad, whose janazah is this Saturday, according to the announcements that we received at 11 a.m. on Saturday. And I just pray Allah is pleased with her. And you heard me talk, if you missed the Sajdah Saturday morning coffee talk, you heard me talk about the example and what she's meant to us. We had planned even, obviously before her return to Allah, this event this weekend. So we're going to still have it. I think it's a great way for us to come together. I know that there's the janazah, there may likely be a repast. And so, but we ask you to still come by between 3 and 7 p.m. We'll be at 4847 South Woodlawn Avenue. You can RSVP by going to Eventbrite and type in 24 karat donate and sip, and just come by and see us. Come by and share brotherhood and sisterhood, and help us to work to complete this incredible home that we've started, but that belongs to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who our sister gave her life defending, along with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But if you really understand, they're one person. So we're going to still do it. We're coming over. We got Magnolia Crescent Orchards and non-alcoholic winery coming. We got the 24 karat non-alcoholic halal certified champagne we're going to be serving. So we're going to still be there. We'll be at the house. We'll be at in Elijah's Garden of Peace. And what a better way to just honor the feeling of our sisters. Some of you have sent me weather forecasts that have popped up saying that it's going to rain. Allah generally blesses us. I don't know what he plans on doing this Saturday, but he generally blesses us with a window of clear weather when we've had events back there in the past. And y'all know that when our leader is moving around, certain things happen with the weather. So what my prayer is that for that day, that once we lay our beloved sister to rest, that the weather opens up and clears up for us, just the way her life has cleared out a path for many of us. So anyway, let's listen, because this is a good lead-in to what we're going to talk about today, which is the impact of a data-driven economy. But before I say that, let me say this. Yesterday, I got a call and a text message from Brother Kamal Muhammad, who some of you all know is one of the sons of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he was thanking me for my work. And he sent me this scripture from Isaiah 58:12. And it said, "Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets and dwellings." It just touched me to receive that scripture from Brother Kamal, because some of you may or may not know, but Brother Kamal and Brother Wazir were responsible for me being in Chicago, and they diligently scooped me up and moved me after a short, I guess, like 6 or 8 month period of being in the nation and accepting the teachings in Indianapolis, Indiana. They moved me to Chicago, and Brother Kamal thanked me for my work to make the scriptures come alive. And that meant so much to me. So thank you, Brother Kamal. Thank you to Brother Wazir, who I know has been one of my angels in business. I'm so grateful for you all. So with that, let's take a look at this video from from our sister Ava Muhammad, Sister Minister Dr. Ava. She's just so much, because it leads into what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be talking about a data-driven economy. And I'm going to give you guys some tips on how the economic program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pairs so perfectly with a data-driven economy, and it pairs more perfectly with a data-driven economy than it does with an oil-backed or gold-backed economy. So, but let's take a look. Let's listen to our sister first, because she always brings it. Oh, man.
One of the greatest of the founding fathers, because we say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a hater.
I kind of messed that up.
That's Jefferson. One of the greatest of the founding fathers, because we say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a hater. Farrakhan, he's a hater. They hate white people because they want to separate. Because I don't want to live next to you and you're beating me to death. So I'm a hater. Okay. But since we love what they say and take what they say as true, let's hear what Thomas Jefferson has to say about separation. These are his notes from, and you can go to the University of Chicago Library and go to their website. Just pull this up, Google it. It's chapter 15 of a very lengthy writing. Jefferson was a prolific writer. He was also a statutory rapist. How many white people do you know named Jefferson? Whose last name is Jefferson? Not many. How many black people named Jefferson? Jackson, Johnson, Adams, Washington. Think about it. Now look, he writes here, because he is, in his weak mind, he's doing his best to try to save us, because he knows that the institution of slavery and the slave trade are condemning America to destruction. So this is in 1784. We've been here a little over 200 years at this time. We came in 1555. We had been in the Caribbean in the Western Hemisphere even prior to that. But we came to these shores 1555. Now the school books say 1619. Jamestown was the first settlement they were able to sustain. Okay, not the first one they ever had. Now, here's Jefferson. To emancipate all slaves born after passing this act. This bill does not itself contain this proposition, but an amendment to it. Now, here's where he gives you the content of this law that he's trying to get passed. He says they should continue to their parents to a certain age, then be brought up at the public expense to tillage, which is agriculture, arts or sciences, according to their geniuses, till the females are 18 and the males 21 years of age, when they should be colonized to such place as the circumstances of the time should render most proper, sending them out, talking about the slave population, with arms, implements of household, handicraft arts, seeds, pairs of useful domestic animals, and declare them a free and independent people, and extend to them our alliance and protection till they have acquired strength. We, of course, know that bill did not pass. He writes here, and if someone could get me the final call, please, I want to read number 4 of the Muslim program. Because there are those of our people that think something's wrong with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, thank you, sir, for the Muslim program. Now, this is Jefferson in 1784. Now, look at this. He says, some will ask, well, why not just retain and incorporate the blacks into the state and save the expense of supplying, now listen at this, supplying by importation of white settlers the vacancies they'll leave. So the plan was to bring in as many white people as black people are being sent out. Now, look at this. Here's Jefferson answering the opponents who, why are we going to spend all this money? Giving black people and giving them arms and food. Now, we put in 200 years by now. Now, look at what his answer is. Deep-rooted prejudice entertained by whites. 10,000 recollections by blacks of the injuries they have sustained. So he's going into the mindset of each of the two people. White people with their deep-seated prejudice toward us, and our memory, which no matter how much we try to escape it, of their injuries to us is always there. Then he goes on to say, new provocations, like when a white cop shoots a black teenager in the street. See, it never stops. There's always a fresh experience to show the futility of these two people trying to merge. Outside of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, a couple of others, and even that's in turmoil, this doesn't work. Now, he goes on to say, many circumstances will divide us into parties and produce convulsions, which will never end, but in the extermination of one or the other race.
Wow. That was heavy. I don't know if y'all really absorbed that or not, but let me help you a little bit, because we are talking today about a data-driven economy. All right, let me type that in the chat. Data-driven economy. All right, so we're gonna get through this in the last 30 minutes. We'll get through it quickly because it's really very simple. And the power of a data-driven economy as it relates to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the economic blueprint of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal study. And I think we could do a whole webinar series, which I think we might do on this topic in and of itself, and how we can explore the advantages that we have as a result of having this wisdom, and as a result of how Allah has changed the economic system that we now live in and set us up for the win. He threw us an alley-oop, y'all. So the question is, some of you all may be saying, what is data? Okay. A data economy, or a data-driven economy, is a global digital ecosystem in which data is gathered, organized, and exchanged by a network of vendors for the purpose of deriving value from the accumulated formation. Okay. I'm gonna read that definition again, and I'm gonna do it a little bit slower. Okay, so that you can absorb it. Okay. A data-driven economy is a global digital ecosystem. A global digital ecosystem in which data is gathered, organized, and exchanged. See, when you start talking about that exchange part, that's when you start to realize value. It's in the exchange. So, in which data is gathered, organized, and exchanged by a network of vendors. Okay? Network of vendors, meaning that a network of people who are going to then take that and sell it to an ultimate consumer or to an end user, but by a network of vendors for the purpose of deriving value from the accumulated information. Now, one of the great revelations of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his prediction and delineation of the fall of America and the fall of the dollar. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad predicted America's current condition in his 1973 masterpiece titled The Fall of America, where he gives detailed information about this country's fall and her symbolism in Scripture. In the book, The Fall of America, in the chapter entitled The Troubled America, No Peace, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says this: America, in trying to hold her place as the greatest power among the nations of the earth, is one of the most troubled countries on earth today. The nations no longer see America as the superpower that she once was. We can all watch the news and bear witness to that. Many of us have wondered, what does this fall look like? What does this transformation look like? And how does that benefit or impact? I won't use the word benefit. How does that impact the instructions that we've been given as a people and as a country by the Lamb of God himself? There are five primary indicators that project the massive change in the American economy as we know it. All right. Y'all all right? Let me know in the chat. Let me know y'all doing okay. Here's the indicators. Unfortunately, Black people specifically have experienced so much abuse that we don't really even have the ability to understand what is happening around us. So we don't even know. If we just get a little relief or a little perceived relief from the abuse, we think we're doing okay. And so we can't, it becomes difficult for us to be solution oriented, kind of going back to what I talked about with the Jackson water crisis, because then there's a system or processes in place that we worship, we think are God. And so these systemic processes have inherent biases embedded in them. And many of us don't even think to step outside or around the blow that these systemic biases have dealt on our community. Okay. The first indicator is the destruction of America's educational system. When we were doing the accomplishments of the Muslim series on Thursday nights, when we first started, I played a clip of a teacher who had been teaching for almost 40 years. And she said, what we don't realize is that they stopped educating our children over 20 years ago. One of the points the Honorable Elijah Muhammad alluded to was that the destruction of America's educational system. You can look up yourself the ranking and how America ranks on a global basis. And with this lowered ranking, we would have a difficult time competing in the world economy when it comes to innovation, when it comes to development. We're just not competitive anymore. This is why when you take a look at some of the other countries, and I would say this personally, when I was in China, it scared me to realize how much we don't produce. And as they took us on the various different tours of the many different industries and manufacturing plants, and we went into the hospital systems, but we also did some business work. I got nervous because I said, oh my God, we're in trouble. Because look at all that we don't produce. And I started writing down some of the different types of plants and manufacturers that I saw. And I started trying to figure out, do I know of any of this type of work being done in America? In many cases, either it was not done at all, or it was done on such a small scale that it could never sustain the economy. So this educational system, I think, contributes a lot to that. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in this same book, the plague of Allah, God, against the educational system of America is something that the philosophers and scientists should look into, as the destruction of America's education is the destruction of their wisdom to educate the people. Now, I was on this website earlier called joshuatruth.com, and it adds this statement to the analysis. Let us fast forward to 2020. And at this time, it was, I think, 2018. They said, let us fast forward to 2020 and look at the condition of the educational system today. Due to COVID-19, most education has transitioned to a digital platform with little success. What school systems are finding is that when the students came back from the pandemic, they were so behind that they thought they were in one grade, but they really, in fact, were probably 2 grades behind. Teachers are unable to teach students effectively, nor can they capture the attention of the students as they would in a classroom setting. Those who have transitioned back to the traditional classroom setting have to worry about safety, the social distancing guidelines, constantly sanitizing the surfaces of everything, and the overall fear of trying to learn or teach in an unsafe environment. You don't know if somebody's going to come in and hurt all the students. You got mass shootings happening literally every week now. But this is part of the destruction of the educational system that is impacting our economy. Number 2, the second one is the importance of unity. The messenger also stressed the importance of Black people to unify. And of all of these, this one I want you to really focus on. He said, we must unite at all costs. Once united, we must stand fully packed as a wall against injustice, he writes. This could not be more relevant, y'all, today. Amid the police shootings and unarmed Black men and the lack of convictions and accountability from law enforcement agencies across the country, the need for a Black united front has increased. God himself wants to see us free. And we could solve 95% of our problems by just sticking together. We have to discard our differences and join hands in love for one another. And I want you to think about, hold that concept of unity in your mind as we dive deeper into this data-driven economy. Number 3, he said we have to pool our resources. Number 4, he said we have to stop wanton criticism of everything Black. Stop being so critical of everything and everybody that is Black. Stop talking about each other. Number 5, he said we have to remember that jealousy destroys from within. And he told us to model greatness. He said, study the white man, for he is successful. He makes no excuses for his failure. Now, to survive the economic downturn or recession that we are in, similar to the one that existed in the late 60s to early 70s, if we model the businesses and economic structure demonstrated by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we must focus on what? The needs of the people. Somebody type that in the chat. Focus on the needs of the people. Now, basic consumer survival needs like food, clothing, and shelter, and various different related businesses, okay? And I've covered this in detail during Manifestation class on Thursdays. Go to manifestationclass.com and download a free copy of the accomplishments of the Muslims. And you can go back and check out those past episodes using that ebook, if you will, as your guide. And as time moves, this is important, evolution begins to take place, right? So time and the concept of time is continuing to move, then evolution takes place. Because with every change of time comes a change of conditions. Hear me good. Evolution is change in the heritable characteristics of biological populations over successive generations. Everything changes, my people. Everything on this earth is in a continuous state of evolution. As scholars, it's important that we understand the times in which we live and use our wisdom, understanding, and data to expand upon existing history. That's why it's so important that we preserve our history and our culture, because the preservation of our culture is the preservation of data that we will use to exchange something of value later in the future. You see, data and technology are new needs that must be explored. In order to follow the instructions of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he gave us to do for self, we now need data or technology to carry out that vision. So the needs of the people are first a knowledge of self, understanding who God is and who your enemy is, and then food, clothing, shelter, and now data and technology. You can't even get paid for a job nowadays without utilizing some form of technology. They're going to want you to have direct deposit. They're going to want you to do electronic banking. You can't advertise an event or communicate with your customers without technology. You can't file unemployment without technology. But what must we also understand? We must understand that the basis of our economy has changed. And understanding these changes and becoming collectively innovative is very important to our survival as a people when we have less collective resources and influence. Check out this quote from Elon Musk. He said, "The foundation of war is economics." We know that. But he also said this: if you have half the resources of the counterparty, then you better be real innovative, because if you're not innovative, you're going to lose. These are just basic facts. This has to be factored into how we see the world and how we design our internal systems in our businesses and in our structures. These are modern times, and our lessons in his instructions to the laborers. The Savior, Master Father Muhammad, gives us instructions on how we should move and think. He said quickness, fast moving, cleanliness, internally and externally, right down to the modern times. How do you get down to the modern times? Well, you got to understand the evolution of the conditions and the product as time changes. He said that as he made a prediction, and this is, I'm talking about Elon Musk, I'm going back to that. As he made the prediction in February of 2020, the prediction was this. Okay, so he said that comment, and then he made this prediction. A thing that will feel pretty strange is that the Chinese economy is probably going to be at least twice as big as the US economy, maybe even 3 times bigger. He said that at a fireside chat with the US Air Force Lieutenant General John Thompson at the Air Warfare Symposium in Orlando, Florida. Well, you know, Bloomberg may not see Mr. Musk as a reliable economic forecaster, But in this data-driven economy that we are currently in, his words have an impact. We are in a world where the words of a president or an influencer or a top business person, even an entertainer, can impact spending habits. It can impact pricing. It can impact the flow of cash. It can even impact the value that we attached to something. What happened to our economy that makes this possible? Remember that these are modern times, and a data-driven economy has now developed. Literally, the Fed chairman or the president or some influencer, like I said, can distribute some data through the use of the media, and we will immediately see our financial markets fluctuate. Now, there's an article published by K2 View that I have been checking out. I'm going to try to get through this in the next few minutes. But first, let's talk about this. What is data? Again, data is, in general, facts and statistics collected together for reference or analysis. But remember, our world is run by technology or computers, if you will. That sees data, those computers and that technology sees data as the things known as or as assumed as facts, making the basis of reasoning or calculation. So it sees data. It doesn't necessarily have to be factual data. It just has to be assumed factual data, or it just has to be impacted in the programming that is written. And then the technology will then make a basis for reasoning and or a calculation. Okay. This is why rumors and, back in the day, they used to drop leaflets or say certain things to get people to make a move. But now what's happening? What's happening now is that they can do it through the use of data. They can spread a rumor. They can assassinate somebody in the media through the use of data, so that by the time the person is actually killed, the public will be numb to the idea. The technology then takes the data, which are things known or assumed as facts, converts it into quantities, characters, or symbols on which operations are performed by a computer, being stored and transmitted in the form of electrical signals and recorded on magnetic, optical, or mechanical recording media. This then becomes the basis of their reasoning or calculations. Okay, so everything you and I do is converted into data. So not only are your demographics used by technology, but your movement and your behaviors, your DNA, your thought patterns, your culture are used as a basis of reasoning or calculations to predict, control, and manipulate us into doing what? Ultimately, into giving up our resources or assets. Those resources or assets are then converted into money or purchasing power. So we'll either give up our money, we'll give up our rights, whatever the data encourages us to give up, it is something of value that is then converted into money or purchasing power. So even our culture is converted into data that is used by someone else to generate purchasing power. We now live again in a data-driven economy. That's why y'all hear me ranting about, listen, urban historic preservation is critical, right? It's a valuable resources that we are giving up because we just ain't really into it anymore. Valuable resource. It's worth trillions of dollars. All right, so now what happened? In short, if you go grab the book, Fall of America, written by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you will see where he talks extensively about the U.S. economy being backed by gold at one time, and then how she abandoned the gold standard. The gold standard has roots, some of you may know, in ancient history. Gold was used to fund trade and finance wars. What would people accept in exchange for their labor or goods? They wanted something tangible and of value. Gold was a good fit because of its limited supply, and frankly, because it was pretty. It was shiny, it was nice. So new and forming countries or up and coming countries used it and relied on it. The US was no different. commercial banks and Federal Reserve banks had a gold reserve requirement. They had to keep reserves of gold in their vaults equal to a fraction of the money they issued. So for every Federal Reserve dollar that was issued, the Reserve Bank had to have 40 cents worth of gold in its vault downstairs in the basement. And then the Great Depression hit, and people started to hoard their gold instead of depositing it into the bank, which created an international gold shortage. Countries around the world basically ran out of gold. They ran out of supply, and they were forced off the gold standard. The U.S. came off the gold standard for domestic transactions in 1933 and ended international convertibility of the dollar to gold in 1971. Now, fast forward. There is current conversation around Russia going back to a gold standard using the decrease in taxes on gold investments as a mechanism to do so. It's just a mental note for y'all to check out. I hope y'all all right. Okay, so then after we abandoned the gold standard, we went to an oil-backed economy. We went from the gold standard to an oil standard. Oil became the central driver of the rapid economic growth of the 20th century. Political structures were centralized, social goals were dramatically expanded, and an entire middle-class consumerist society was created on the back of the oil economy. Oil also had a profound impact on the world's geopolitical map, as nations and industries competed for access to these resources. So these economies literally changed boundaries and maps, not only just the geopolitical map. But anyway, the economic dominance of oil is clearly demonstrated by the fact that in 2020, 8 of the 10 largest companies on the Fortune 500 list were oil or energy related. They were oil producers and carbon users like Sinopec, State Grid, China National Petroleum, Royal Dutch Shell, Saudi Aramco, BP. You can go look it up. You had 2 auto companies on there, Volkswagen and Toyota. But you can go look that up. Now, by 2030, we'll be looking at a completely data-driven economy. 10 years from today, 8 of the Fortune 10 will likely be data-driven technology companies. They will also be much bigger than the industrial giants of the past. Amazon will almost certainly be top of the list with well over $1 trillion in annual revenue. Apple, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, Facebook will each have revenues in the $500 billion to $1 trillion plus dollar range. The scale of these new tech giants will be unprecedented. Together, these data-driven companies will have annual revenues easily exceeding $5 trillion by 2030. This will mean that their aggregate revenues may well exceed the gross national product of every individual country in the world, with the exception of the United States and China. As we've been said, data is the oil of the information age, right? Just as the Middle East and the Suez Canal emerged as the linchpin of the oil age, the new tech giants will control much of the world's data outside of China. Thanks to comprehensive new data management technologies like data fabric, Google will know everyone's thought patterns. Amazon will understand all consumer desires. Facebook and WhatsApp will oversee the public's communication habits. Netflix will understand cultural dynamics. Tesla will be privy to daily migration and energy consumption patterns. And all this knowledge will be immediate and instantly actionable in the data-driven economy of tomorrow. See, this is why mastermind groups, directories of like-minded people or services, or collective unified defenses against opposition will be critical for us in the future. I hope you're beginning to see the importance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's instructions on unity, because you see, the unity produces data that can be converted into political and buying power. It's just that simple. let's go back to the definition of data. Technology takes data, which are things known or assumed as facts, converts it into quantities, characters, or symbols on which operations are performed by a computer, being stored and transmitted in the form of electrical signals and recorded on magnetic, optical, or mechanical recording media. This then becomes the basis of reasoning or calculation. So, for example, 4,400,000,000 people who are in unity can influence and develop political structures and can change the buying patterns and economic standards and the valuations of goods and services around the world. So you see, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his instructions telling us to unite is more powerful today than it even was 50 years ago or when the economy was backed by gold or oil. Now that we are in a data-based economy, that unity becomes currency. Now, this K2 View article goes on to discuss the role of the individual in a data-driven economy. Individual, you and I. It said that the 20th century's energy-based industrialization led to the greatest voluntary migration in human history. In the late 1800s, 80% of the population worked on the land in rural environments. Okay, 80% of the people were farmers or had something to do with tilling the land. By the end of the 20th century, only 5% of the people worked on the land, and the majority of the population inhabited large and mid-sized cities. In the past, people would never leave their home village and were unlikely to ever travel more than 20 miles from their place of birth, with the exception of wartime. In the new world, personal mobility has become the norm rather than the exception. You all hear me talking about the Great Migration all the time and how it's important for us to gather that data and preserve that history, because you had almost 6 million Black people from 1919 to 1970s, 71 or so, who were escaping domestic terrorism in the South, came to the North. That's a set of data points. There was history made. We have to preserve that and own that. This migration that we're talking about here had a significant impact on self-identity. See, the tight family and relationship bonds inherent in a rural environment were displaced by the relative anonymity of urban life. In exchange for much higher living standards and significant protection from the potential harshness of nature, the average person accepted much greater government intervention in their lives and the imposition of many more rules and laws because they wanted to migrate. People began to view themselves primarily as citizens of the states. And so they accepted much more rules. They gave up more freedom. Anyway, the vibrant economy this vibrant economy, that migration created a new human species. And that new human species is called the consumer. Given the significant wealth generated in the capitalist economies, there was unprecedented demand for new goods and services. Improvements in nutrition and healthcare led to significantly longer lifespans and rapid population growth. Together, these two developments created enormous strains on the environment as a result of the resources consumed and the need to dispose of the vast waste created. Now, before I read these next few words from this article, I want you to think back on the 5 key points given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that I stated at the beginning of the show. I'll let you go back and review them because we don't have time for me to read them again. Now, check this out. Going forward, the current focus on environmentalism and a slowdown or rejection of mass consumption are likely to be very long trends. Let me say that differently. We're moving into a period where we'll be more focused on environmentalism, and we will experience a slowdown or rejection of mass consumption of goods and services. The more profound question, however, will center on individual perceptions of their what? Self-identity. What did he tell us? Know ourselves. Okay, again, people's individual perceptions of themselves will begin to change and evolve into a self-identity basis way of thinking, not what kind of job you have or where you live or what you drive, but self-identity. You already see that starting to happen. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us way back, know thyself. Individuals may well begin to define themselves and make life choices to an even greater extent based on their lifestyle or their self-identity as opposed to monetary economics. Hope you hear me. This may in turn alter how people perceive themselves relative to their environments and their role in society and the state. It would not be inconceivable that the average individual begins to identify themselves less as a citizen of their state and more as a member of a group that they have virtual ties to. You see where this is going? You see why our unity is so important? You don't think that the data scientists have already discovered this? Now check this out. So much of modern day capitalism, as established by the transatlantic slave trade and refined by the men who built America, like the industrial giants such as who? The Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Carnegies, etc. Okay, so it was the capitalist society was pretty much established by transatlantic slave trade or built on the backs of the transatlantic slave trade, and then it was refined by these industrial giants. What did Master Fard Muhammad say about those industrial giants? I'm gonna let y'all go back in your memory. Look, a data-driven economy will lead to a reordering of industrial and national competitiveness. So the industrial giants, the men who built America, put together a system that will begin to unravel as people begin to make decisions based on their self-identity, and the economy becomes more data-driven. This data-driven economy will begin the dismantling of what they built. Do y'all hear me? Do you remember what Master Fard Muhammad said about them? I'll give you one clue. Lake of fire. Could this data-driven economy be the key to our inheritance? Is that our alley-oop? From a corporate viewpoint, the next 2 decades will undergo more competitive disruption than has occurred in 100 years. Because you know this whole, if you take Econ 101, it's all about competition. It's all about supply, demand, and competition. To survive, check this out, legacy corporations will need to restructure their operations such that data is their most important asset. Data will be the hub from which all other elements of the organization become spokes. So data will be the focal point. Consumer tastes may shift. Political and regulatory pressures may alter. Individual products may rise and fall, but consumer data will remain central to negotiating these accelerating changes. See, this may help you understand this better. The oil-based economy allowed for mass production, okay? That's why I call it the Industrial Revolution. Oil allowed manufacturing companies to Fordize or automate their production methodologies. We say that because Henry Ford mass produced the automobile. He didn't invent it, he just mass produced it. So that's why we call it Fordize. So oil allowed manufacturing companies to Fordize their production methodologies and distribute their products more efficiently. The modern centralized corporation emerged for the purpose of utilizing resources in the most efficient organizational structure to leverage these new economies of scale. All right. The data-driven economy may counterbalance some of these 20th century developments or even reverse them. Given the virtual nature of digital assets and the seamless and easy flow of data, greater centralization may become the preferred corporate model. This will allow organizations to more rapidly respond to local government requirements and also provide them with greater flexibility to respond to local regulatory limitations or taxation concern. The 20th century model was based on economies of scale and commoditization of products via central production. The data-driven economy, facilitated by data fabric technology, will be defined by mass customization, local autonomy, and hyper segmentation of customers. Enterprises will also dramatically flatten their reporting structures to minimize the middle management layer, whose sole function is to capture, control, and distribute information. So we're talking about product customization being critical because the self-identity of groups that is defined in the data will drive products. So what will our unity produce? See, our unity, the reason why we are told that I think one of the reasons why we're told that it's more powerful than an atomic bomb is because that unity will produce something. The data from that unity will have a byproduct, an end product that can be translated into goods and services. So you see, in this data-driven world, we are not human, we are data points. But don't get nervous. You don't have to give up your newfound authenticity in order to unite. In fact, the fact that we are learning to discover and monetize our authenticity, which I've been saying to us for years, is very beneficial to us in this new economy. I'm gonna stop there because we've gone way over, and y'all know I normally don't go past an hour. But look, big field await the wide awake man and woman to work out in. We must be quick, fast moving, clean, internally and externally, right down to the modern times, and we must unite. And in order to be down in the modern times, we must evolve, we must be aware, we must work on doing for self, and we must be fishermen and fisherwomen. Listen, I don't know if fishermen and fisherwomen is a word, maybe not, but y'all know what I mean. In other words, with the knowledge of self, the identity and knowledge of God as our armor, we can step out of our comfort zone and keep pace with the developing world. And we'll talk a little bit more about this data-driven economy tomorrow in manifestation class right here on the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel. Thank you all very much. Thank you for bearing with me. I know this is very technical. Some of y'all can't hang with the technical stuff, but y'all know I'm a nerd. So I like this technical stuff because I like dissecting what it all means. Okay, so everybody, look, make sure you register to come out this weekend, this Saturday evening to the 24 Karat Donate and Sip fundraising and birthday celebration for moi, yours truly. I hope to see you all at 4847 South Woodlawn Avenue. And inshallah, until the next time, do something good for somebody today. Love on somebody today. Spoil somebody today. Tell somebody you love them and you care about them. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings, family. I wanted to personally invite you to join me on September 3rd, 2022 at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House from 3 to 7 p.m. We're going to be doing a fundraiser for the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House and enjoying these last few weeks of our warm weather. And guess what? It's my birthday. So come on out, scan here to RSVP.